Hi, my name's Brad Young, and welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. Today we're doing episode 12. It's going to be one of the more interesting episodes, and it's one I can definitely relate to because it's something I've been a part of. And so, in episode 12, we're going to look at the Marine Corps Physical Fitness Test and the Combat Fitness Test. And so, backstory on that is many years ago, I used to help get people ready. I used to help the recruiters and trainers, different things, to help people get ready to score on the Marine Corps Physical Fitness Test. And so we had to, essentially, work to be able to pass all the components. Then it was chin-ups, pull-ups. There were other things you run and everything else. So it's different. The testing has changed, but the premise is still the same. It's still elite standards. It's, by far the hardest, even, entry-level fitness test that, that I know in the military. I mean, as far as entry level, and then the combat fitness test is a whole different animal we're going to talk about as well. But, when we utilize the concepts of the Peak Performance Podcast, it's going to make it a lot easier to understand how to get where you need to be on here because, we found your hidden strengths. We looked at your self-awareness through Peak Performance to figure out what, how self-aware are you? And that's where you're going to benchmark yourself for this one. You discovered what peak performance means to you. You unlocked your peak performance potential and wrote down about it. You set yourself goals. You looked at the foundation of elite training techniques. And then we've been looking at mindset. We've looked at, elite coaching and mentorship. And so now we're going back to training. And so when we start looking at training here, this is a very, very, very difficult test. So, when you look at the Marine Corps Physical Fitness Test, the standards are very high just to start off. So when we look at that, we're going to break this down. And so you're age 17 to 20. All right, now here's your basic. No, here's just your basic. You have to basically be able to do 3 pull-ups or 34 push-ups. And these are strict push-ups. They're not the hand release push-ups like the Army, but they are strict push-ups. And they'll let you do push-ups until your arms fall off, even if you're doing them in the wrong form and not count them. They just stop counting them till you get it right. And so that's the way this works. So then when you start looking at the requirements, so all right, 3 pull-ups or 34 push-ups. All right, your max score is 23 pull-ups or 82 push-ups. Okay, so I'm going to take this test. So as soon as I'm through finishing up the last little bit of the Army physical fitness test, we're going to be doing the Marine Corps. And so, my objective obviously is going to be able to score in the 17 to 20, just get the 23 pull-ups, which I know I can do already, or the 82 push-ups, I know I can do. I mean, I do sets of 25 pull-ups when I'm doing my circuit. So I know I can do these, but it's figuring out how to figure out your peak performance and how you can get there. And so then we'll look at the planks and the curl-ups. And so the basic requirement is 55 seconds on the plank or 70 curl-ups. Curl-ups, are essentially crunches, but they're more disciplined crunches. And so you'll have to look at it to see how those curl-ups work, but it's going to be a crunch to where you've got to keep, your hands to your body and be able to curl it up and crunch it up. So that's the minimum. Your max score is going to be 3 minutes and 45 seconds in the plank or 115 curl-ups. 115 curl-ups is tough. This is a high standard. Like I said, the Marine Corps has a very high standard on it. So it's not going to be easy. And so we have a basic requirement of 27 minutes and 40 seconds for the 3-mile run. All right, so you're looking at just a little bit over 9 minutes. You're looking like, so it's not bad, 27, 40. So you got 9-minute miles with 40-second buffer in there. The max score is 18, which is going to be 6-minute miles. So this is not an easy test by any stretch of the imagination. So, you'll look at the scoring on there to see where you're at. You can look at the age charts. There's age charts that are posted everywhere where you can, kind of compare yourself. But, these are very high standards. And I mean, they don't even get better if you go up to 21 to 25. So you're still at 3 pull-ups, 33 push-ups minimum, basic. 23 pull-ups still your max, 87 push-ups is your max there. So you go up just a little bit because you've matured a little bit. Your basic plank still going to be 55 seconds or 70 curl-ups, still 345 on the plank or 115 curl-ups for your max score. Your basic requirements, you get a little bit slower here, 21 to 25. You can do it in 28 minutes. Max score is 18. Max score is elite. I mean, you're running 18. That's like running you're very close to running a 5K in 18 minutes. So that's you're moving pretty fast. So to combine the strength and the speed there, that's in the core strength, that's what the Marine Corps is focusing on here. So as we look at it, establishing what we're going to do, I've got an attachment here that we're going to be able to go through and measure yourself. You're going to go through and be able to keep up and see how you do with a Marine Corps physical fitness test. It's not easy at all. And, it's going to be harder. It's different than the one we looked at for the Army. It's a strict test, but we've got what it is I've put in here also a 6 week training plan. It's just a simple training plan to be able to try to get your max scores. And so when we look at the training plan, it's pretty simple. Week 1 and 2, you're performing your pull-ups and push-ups. 3 sets of pull-ups to failure. You rest 2 minutes in between sets. And you got to add 1 to 2 every session. So depending on where you're at, so when you go back and you write where you're at on that, now we're going to put that, it's going to be in the document. You can put where you start and then put where you finish in these 6 weeks, because if like I said, I can already get the max, okay? But I've been training for years. I can already max it. I can max the pull-ups out. Max push-ups too. But this is where you're doing it to failure. And another thing you can add in there is some dead hangs. Dead hangs help your grip strength. And that's where, as far as peak performance go, that's where we fail a lot of times, not having the grip strength. You got to have that grip strength. And I do a lot of dead hangs in my, I have very, very good grip, to say the least. And, but I work on it, it also stretches my back, stretches your upper back and neck, but it helps you work on this stuff. So another idea is, if you're performing your sets to failure, perform to failure and then do a dead hang. Rest a sec, get up there and dead hang. Hold yourself, see how much longer you can push yourself, then rest 2 minutes and then try it. That's how you can start getting up to the advanced sets. And then you do 3 sets of 15 to 20 push-ups, which, if you're starting that low, you probably need to work on it already, but you got to, you need to get up to where you're doing 25 to 30 push-ups per set by the end of the first week. This is saying week 1 through 2, but 1 and 2, but you need to be up doing that. If you're going to go in Marine Corps, if you're going to go in somewhere, these guys don't play around. Like I said, I used to work out with so many of them and been around for many, many years, and I promise you, they don't play around. You need to take this very seriously if you are getting ready for it. But if you're looking for your peak performance, this is how you get it, because you got to keep grinding and pushing and getting better here. So as we look at it, you work on, obviously your pull-ups and your push-ups, then your curl-ups and your plank. When you can do, 60-second planks. If you can't do a 60-second plank already, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to work just a little bit harder. You're going to get caught up pretty quick. But you do 60-second planks, rest for 30 seconds, do 3 sets. You add 5 to 10 seconds every day. Because this is a daily thing. This is a daily grind if you're going to get this done. This is not something that, you can halfway do. If you're going in Marine Corps boot camp, they are not going to play with you. Everybody that I know that's been is, they've been very, very strong, and they had to be ready. And so, like I said, I used to help them get ready, and I really enjoyed it. I used to help a lot of people get ready for things like this. So, as you're looking at it, these are all simple things. You can incorporate other things, but the Marine Corps is going to require strength, core strength, and definitely speed and running and mobility, because, that's what you do. And so once you do your planks, you start your curl-ups. Make sure you get your form right. Make sure you get your form right. You need to do at least 2 sets of 30 curl-ups. Every single day. I would work my way up to 10 at a minimum, because, you need to continue to work. Again, there's a disclaimer that's in every of these podcasts that, it's not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. And the advice is just coming from me and not anybody else. So just, it is, heed with the disclaimer, but I'm just telling you what you got to have. I mean, if you want to actually score out, you're going to have to get pretty aggressive. You're going to score and get the points. You've got to up it pretty fast. So, I mean, when you're doing the curl ups, I mean, you need to be up to 40, 50 by the end of week 2. All right, your 3-mile run. Now, this is where you're going to have to work on your endurance. This is where you're going to have to actually work on not injuring yourself, because too many people go out and they do not train correctly. And you start hurting yourself really quickly trying to get ready. So this is where you got to focus. The other things, I mean, you're going to have to push. You got to push to get strong, because a lot of people go in there not strong enough. But here, I mean, I've got down here, to run 2 miles at a comfortable pace 3 days a week. You're building your endurance. But what you need to do is you need to be in that zone 1. You need to get a watch, something where you can stay in zone 1 to zone 2. And zone 2 is going to go up to about 142 beats a minute. You don't want to get past that pace. You want to build a foundation, because you've got to build up over these 6 weeks. So you've got to build the foundation. You don't want shin splints. So, I mean, you got to make sure that you are stretching. Your nutrition is on point. And, you have to do a real evaluation of that. You've got to do that. So, I mean, then in week 2, you're running 3 miles at a moderate pace. And, you're going to have to include some interval training, which, you can do things of like, jog for 2 minutes, sprint for a minute, jog for 2 minutes, sprint for a minute. But you're going to have to start working on getting that speed up. And that's what I'm going to do is I'm getting ready, because, to be able to max the test, I'm going to run in 18 minutes, which is not going to happen. I seriously doubt I'm going to be able to make it 18 minutes. But I promise you, it won't be much over about 24 minutes at the most. And I'm 47 years old, 205 pounds. I mean, most likely I'm going to be at the 24 mark by the end of the 6 weeks, if not a little bit under. Could be a little closer. We'll see. We're going to train, but we'll see where we're at. But, get in here and focus on this, because, the next one we're going to go over is going to be the combat fitness test, which is even harder. So as you continue to grow through here, you're going to have to increase your pull-up sets to 4. You're going to have to pull them to failure. You're going to have to rest 90 seconds, and you're going to have to really push. You've got to really focus on the core things here. To where in the Army, when we talked about doing some different cross-training things and all that, that's not it. You need to be functionally doing exactly what is required, what is asked of you, so you're ready, because these are exactly the things you're going to be tested on. And it's not with the Army one, it seems to be more, more, cross-training like. It's going to be more of a hybrid like thing. I mean, this is just straight up pull-ups, push-ups, planks, curl-ups, and running. I mean, it's 3 things you've got to get better on. But the more stretching you do, the more you read and learn and understand, the more you pay attention to your diet, and, I mean, look at stuff like creatine and other things are going to help you, because, you got to get ready for these things, and you got to understand supplementation and nutrition and dieting. So that's something that, we're going to continue to work through on the Peak Performance podcast, but we're not going to get through it today on the exact nutrition, but I will have it on the sheet. There'll be some examples for nutrition. So some tips for success is obviously to warm up thoroughly. Make sure you've got rest days. Utilize yoga, stretching, swimming, anything like that. Ride the bike. I mean, that's another option too. Ride the bike. I mean, on your on your rest days. I mean, that bike's because you got to build up the stamina no matter what. You got to build the stamina up. It's just like tonight. I mean, I got to ride the bike for 30 minutes. Got to run for an hour. I still got pull-ups and things to do. I mean, tons of things to do. So you got to and that's an off day. There's been so many other things that's already happened. So we got to keep that in focus. Remember, stretching, all these things that I did not realize as much until I got a little bit older, having to do that more. Make sure you're getting your adequate nutrition. And, understanding nutrition is going to be very important. So now we're going to cover the second component here. And that's going to be the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. And this is a functional test right here. So this is where you're going to have to, when you get ready for this, you're going to have to cross train. You're going to have to get ready because this is no joke at all. And there's 3 events. The scoring is obviously going to be based on your age and gender. Perfect score is 300. But we're going to put in here the minimum that you have to be able to pass the test. And so we look at the first. You've got a 880-yard sprint. And so when we start off there, you got an 880-yard sprint. All right, sounds easy, but you have to be. Your scoring metrics for the max is going to be under 2 minutes and 45 seconds for males. Females, 3 minutes, 23 seconds. It's going to vary by age group. The minimum passing time is going to be 4 minutes, and is between 4 minutes and 5 minutes. So it's going to depend on your age and gender, but at the end of the day, 880 yards. This is a sprint. This is designed, and you're in combat of getting out of the enemy territory. Move fast. 880 yards. And so essentially, you're running a football field 8 times plus 80 yards. So you run a football, so let's say you run down and back 8 times, and then you do another run to the 20-yard line. You got to be moving. This is a serious run right here. Under 2 minutes and 45 seconds, you're moving. The ammunition lift. Now this is simulating combat situation here. 30-pound overhead for 2 minutes. 100 is going to be 120 and 140 reps. So, looking at this, thinking about this, you need to be doing overhead presses, overhead dumbbells. You need to be using kettlebells. You need to be using anything you can to figure out how you're going to get into that rhythm for that 30-pound ammunition can, because it's not going to be like a weight or you got a grip on it. It's going to be different. The grip's going to be different. So you need to be able to simulate this, figure out a way to do it, get the measurements, get everything together, because, 120 to 140 reps is a max score. All right. That's a lot. That's a lot of reps. Your minimum score is 35 to 40, 30 to 45, which I can definitely do that. But the thing of it is how close can I get? Because having that ammunition case is going to be different. So this is another way to work on your peak physical condition and mental condition. Because when we do this, this is tough. This is really working your shoulders. This is working your shoulders, core, all your muscles, and you're working your mind right here because you're fighting against fatigue, because that lactic acid is going to build up pretty quick. And there's that 30 pounds. It doesn't seem like a lot till you've been doing it for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. Those things add up. So you got to remember that. And you got the maneuver under fire. It's a 300-yard shuttle. It incorporates specific tactics, including crawling, carrying, dragging the casualty, as well as sprinting with weights. So, this is going to be a monster right here. Your max score is to complete the course in under 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Females, 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Minimum passing is going to be 4 minutes. 4 minutes and 35 seconds to 5 minutes, depending on your age and gender. So, it's 300-yard shuffle. And so, you're crawling, you're carrying things, you're dragging. So, just like with the Army, with their, with the way they have theirs set up, there's going to be some similar things in there when you're crawling, you're carrying weight, you're dragging. And so, you've got to do some serious cross training and design something that's going to, it's going to help. It's going to help because it's going to test your cardio endurance. You got to do some strength training here for your Marine Corps combat fitness. You got to do some different type of compound movements, deadlifts, squats, push-ups, pull-ups. You need all these, you got to do some different strength training to get ready for this, because planks you're going to need for the functional fitness side of it, because that core's got to be strong for that ammunition lift. It's got to be, you got to be fit for your sprints. When you're doing the crawling, carrying, and dragging, I mean, you're going to need all these things. I mean, so you're going to have to practice these things. You got to, practice specific things like the ammunition cans and the compound things, like I said, with the deadlifts, etc. You're going to practice dragging weights, dragging sleds, carrying objects that are awkward to hold, all those things. You got to work on flexibility and mobility, stretching and mobility so you don't get hurt. You want to reduce your likelihood of injury. So you're training for this. This is totally different. The other one, physical fitness test, is straightforward. There's so many variables in here, but you got to simulate the test conditions, and then, a 6-week training. This is going to be way different than the straightforward. It's going to require so many more things. And so there's going to be more things about that in the link, where you can take a look and figure out how you would go through and do it and attack it. Because, I mean, we're all out here trying to seek peak performance. And so this is definitely a way to test it. So my name is Brad Young, and this has been the Peak Performance Podcast. Have a great day. Thanks.